The Chancellor, George Osborne. Let's speak to one of the MPs who's not been overly impressed by Mr Osborne's warning. He's Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he's in the central lobby of the House of Commons. Jacob Rees-Mogg, what's wrong with having an emergency budget? If there's a vote to leave, there will be big decisions to take.
The Chancellor basically needs to calm down and regrettably stop talking nonsense. That if we vote to leave on Thursday week, there is a minimum 2-year period in which we are still a member of the European Union. That Article 50 takes time to be exercised. So what he is doing in this hysterical suggestion of an emergency budget is ignoring the treaty provisions for an orderly departure of a member state. He really ought to read the treaties more carefully, and particularly an excellent report by the House of Lords European Committee, which sets out how Article 50 would work and underpins that the purpose of Article 50 is to avoid an economic dislocation both for the leaving state and, even more importantly from their point of view, from the point of view of other member states of the European Union.
But Jacob Rees-Mogg, many on your side for leave have stated that there could be a short-term shock. There could be instability, and George Osborne is only saying that the government would respond in the event of a leave vote, which he and other economic institutions have predicted would lead to some sort of meltdown.
The meltdown idea is a far-fetched one. That what most of the commentators have said is that there may be some instability in currency markets, but there is always instability in currency markets. This is par for the course in the financial system, that nobody would know the economic effects within a week or two of a vote to leave. So an emergency budget is really indicating a degree of panic. It's a very silly thing to say, quite honestly, and for the Chancellor to jettison conservative principles in favour of his Europhilia seems to me desperately unwise.
Right, but there was an emergency budget, wasn't there, in 2010 to deal with the financial crisis, so it's not as if you haven't had emergency budgets before. What's wrong with preparing for one now?
What happened in 2010 was that there was a new government that felt that a different economic policy should be followed. That was the reason for the budget, same reason as in 1979. Geoffrey Howe had a budget, same as in 1997. Gordon Brown had a budget when he came into office. When the governments change, there is always a budget because economic policy changes. That's not an emergency, that's a matter of routine.
Right. So, I mean, in terms of you and others signing to say that you would vote down that sort of budget, you're going to vote against your own government on something as critical as a budget?
Well, it's not my government, it's Her Majesty's, but I'm going to stick to the manifesto I stood on that said we would not raise income tax. Indeed, George Osborne introduced a law last year to make it illegal to increase income tax. And the economy is not going to react in the way he is saying. The forecasts are based on assumptions that no rational person would follow, and the Treasury assumptions are ones that he'd given away to an independent body until he decided he needed to arrange the figures to suit his political argument.
But you're prepared to basically vote down the budget of a Conservative government?
I would vote against a budget that broke the Conservative Party's manifesto pledges, and more importantly, a budget introduced out of spite to punish the British voters for not obeying the wisdom of George Osborne. It is the height of arrogance a week before a vote to say, if you don't do as I say, I'm going to punish you. I think it is very damaging to George Osborne's credibility as Chancellor.
Do you think George Osborne should remain as Chancellor if the UK votes to leave the EU?
It won't be a matter for me.
But what do you think?
Well, let's wait until we have the vote. But I think he's done a lot of damage.
You've been quite outspoken now.
He's done a lot of damage to his credibility, and he will have a hard task to rebuild it.
Jacob Rees-Mogg in Central Lobby, thank you.